topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Life with Open Pages Publishing. We all have a purpose in life. Sometimes we just need a little motivation to point us in the right direction. This show is designed to help you create the life you were meant to live. I'm your host, Michelle Spikanis. My goal is to motivate you to make simple life changes so you can experience a life with meaning, direction, love, and peace. Now let's start the show. Hello and welcome to Life with Open Pages Publishing. I'm so happy that you're here to join us tonight. You know, many people walk through life by what they see, feel, and hear, boosting their pride along the way. And you know, pride destroys our focus and our relationships. Now, you may never fully escape the temptation to be proud, but we can try and reduce these temptations. My guest today, Ashleydawn Wells, is going to help us with ways to put our pride aside and to help us walk with faith. Now, I've known Ashleydawn for several years now, and I can tell you, she is a woman of faith, and she has wisdom beyond her years. So here she is, Ashleydawn Wells. Hi, Ashley.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for being here. Hey, Ashley, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I grew up loving Jesus my whole life, going through storm after storm after storm, lots of, everyday life problems and turning to Jesus. And so through all the craziness, I've learned some, I don't want to say tricks because they're not tricks, tips to help me navigate through life and not look at myself, but look at Jesus and hold his hand and let him lead me through trying to just be normal in, the middle of a hurricane, the middle of a divorce, the middle of getting fired, the middle of a pandemic, whatever, life throws at us, and not letting pride really direct us, but seeking God and having hope and faith.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Proverbs 11 verse 2 says, when pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. Now, I don't know about you, but I have eaten a lot of humble pie along the way.
Yeah, I think if you looked at the thing I eat most, it's humble pie on a daily basis. Not by my own choice.
Now, how about, can you give us some examples?
Oh, sure. A friend, has an opinion and they don't value yours. And so they think that, what they're doing is the right way. And sometimes friendships fall by the wayside and you kind of just have to chalk it up to, okay, maybe they'll circle back around. Maybe they'll see my way. I could argue and I could fight, but I could also lose this relationship. And so let me just take a little piece of humble pie, let my friend just, do what they need to do, and then come back when they've cooled off, when they realize that, their way is not the only way.
Right. Now, is there a way back from that? A lot of times we have some falling outs and, and we think, well, I was right, or we kind of think, well, maybe I wasn't so right, but is there a coming back from that, or does pride get in the way and kind of hold us back from, trying to make amends?
I mean, there's a flip side to every coin. If we want to be honest and want to be vulnerable and say, you know what, I might have this wrong. I might not know it all. I haven't arrived at this pinnacle of, perfection that I just know everything. If we just meet people where they are and we're honest and we say, listen, this is what I think, but I could be wrong. I welcome, if you have a different perspective, I welcome that. There's actually a scripture in the Bible. It's Proverbs 28:26. And it says, if you think you know it all, you are a fool for sure. Real survivors learn wisdom from others. And that's Proverbs 28:26. And I've kind of always kept that in the back of my mind, like, you don't know it all. Even when you think you do, you don't. Real survivors learn wisdom from others. And so sometimes, I get high on the horse and I'm like, I know my own way. And then I, kind of think about it for a second. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I was wrong. Can you share your perspective with me? I could have been wrong, and then be open enough to hear a perspective that isn't yours.
But sometimes that pride, AKA hurt, gets in the way. A lot of times when people think, she's being so prideful and she just thinks she really does know it all, and she always has to be right, and nobody can ever be right, but we all are not perfect, like you said, and it's so hard sometimes, even personally, it's so hard to think that we could be wrong, but we are wrong sometimes. Nobody's perfect. It's just, whoops, how do you get back to, leveling that playing field, I guess you'd say?
For me, prayer, like literally prayer is my only way of escape through a prideful situation. I pray and I say, God, if I am wrong, open my eyes, give me discernment, give me clarity, allow me to see that, soften my heart and soften the other person's heart, and let them see, I have a good heart and I love them. And, I may be coming off wrong, but prayer is huge. And, God can do a lot more through our praying and through our submitting to him than he can with us arguing our way. And so anytime there's an issue like that, maybe a friend stops talking to you, or a family member says they don't want you to be a part of the family anymore. Or they, block you on Facebook, or block you on social media, or, block you on their phone. And you're like, God, I love my family member. I love my friend. I love this person, help them to see my intentions, help them to see my heart. And honestly, prayer, like giving it to God, because he has a lot more power than I do.
Now, a lot of people think, prayer, or even a total stranger, just stopping to just say, hey, wait a minute, what am I doing? Where are we headed? And how can I fix this before it goes too far, right?
Yeah. Well, like we, talked about the other night, it's when you have a problem, it is a potato that literally just came out the oven, and it is hot and it hurts you. And so instead of dealing with it, instead of sitting it down, letting it cool down, kind of getting away from the situation, a lot of times we don't know how to deal with that hurt and that pain, or that frustration, or that unresolved trauma, or just issues. And, so we throw it on the closest person to us. A lot of times that's, a husband, a boyfriend, a family member, a best friend, whoever's closest to us kind of gets the brunt of our anger, our frustration, our pride sometimes. And it takes that hot potato, setting it down and saying, you know what? This is hot right now. I'm all fired up in my emotions. I'm going to let this sit. I'm going to breathe. Counting to 10 is huge before you want to respond to anybody. Just taking a deep breath and saying, am I reacting? Am I throwing my hot potato on them because I want to burn them? Or am I setting my potato down, letting it cool down, and then picking it back up? And so a lot of things can be healed with time, just taking a 10-second pause and saying, okay, am I reacting out of anger? Am I getting all passionate? Am I getting all worked up about this? Can I take a break? If you're texting somebody, I had one of my family members that just went off in a text message on me, and it honestly was a misunderstanding. They thought one thing, I thought another, and we thought the same thing, but we were communicating differently. And so she was all mad, I was all mad, and we were just going back and forth. And it really ruined the relationship, because things were said that can't be taken back. Even when you cool down, that hot potato cools down, you will always remember those things that were said. Some things you can't take back.
Right. And we've all done that, right? We've all said things that we can't take back, and we've done things that we can't, reverse and undo. But what can we do moving forward?
We can be honest. We could say, hey, I was wrong. I was angry. I was frustrated. Maybe I was hangry. Maybe I needed to eat. Maybe, my levels were low and I needed some medication, if you're on medication. Or maybe you were just having a bad day and you took it out on somebody. It's okay to say, I messed up. but we're so prideful and we want to come off like we have it all together and we're so perfect. And sadly, a lot of times as Christians, as people who know the Bible, as people who know the truth, we kind of use that as a crutch, and we're like, well, I'm a Christian. Well, no, you're a human being that's flawed, that's imperfect. Yes, you got a Bible. Whether or not you're reading it and applying it in your life is the real question, but we've all sinned and fallen short. Even pastors, even priests, even people that, have studied the Bible their whole lives, they still fall short. So you can't use that as a crutch and be like, well, I'm a Christian, so I don't have to apologize. No, you're a Christian. You should be the first one to apologize.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But how hard is that sometimes, Oh, pride, it just gets in the way, it just really, but is there a way that we can I know we'll never fully escape that temptation to be proud, but, by admitting, first way is of course, by admitting we were wrong. But what if you really just stand strong on your ground and say, but I'm not wrong, and you feel the other person's wrong? I mean, what else can we do?
You could be loving. At no point am I saying, to patch a situation, you need to immediately take responsibility and immediately apologize. Sometimes we are right. Like, it's not pride, it's not ego. Sometimes we really are right, and it's the other person that, isn't seeing things from our side. And so in that, I would say respond in love. Don't change, don't lie, because if you are, saying, well, I was wrong, and you don't feel that you were wrong, essentially you're lying. So I would say respond in love. Find every possible way that you can to love that person in the situation. And sometimes love means distancing yourself, until they've cooled down, until they're not frustrated anymore. Obviously, pray for them. There's another scripture. It says in Proverbs 16:18, it said, first pride, then the crash. The bigger the ego, the bigger the fall. And I just think, anytime that I've ever fallen, when I have made a huge mistake, what happens? You skin your knee, you fall off a bike, you skin your knee, you cut yourself, it hurts. And so you really need to address the hurt. Even when you're right and you fall, you need to address the hurt. You got to clean the wound. You got to, apply some ointment. You got to put a Band-Aid, cover the wound from, other infectants or bacteria. And so a lot of time, when we have an altercation or a disagreement with somebody, the first thing pride wants to do is then go share that with everybody that post it all over your social media, tell your family, start a group text and tell everybody, well, did you hear what Ashleydawn did? And did you hear what she said? And, I'm going to tag her in all these posts. And it's kind of like wildfire. Instead of putting a blanket over it and covering it, which, essentially is what grace does, it covers our wrongs. Instead of doing that, you fan it, and then it turns into this big wildfire that you can't contain and you can't control. And so I would say, address the hurt. Where in your conversation, where in your relationship do you, even when you're the right party, feel hurt? Do you feel hurt because somebody didn't listen to you? Do you feel hurt because they believed the worst in you? Where is the hurt? Because you got to get to the root to get it out of there. You have an infection, you got to get that infection out before you can sew that wound back up. And so I would say, focus on the hurt, really pray and ask God, and dig deep within and be like, where is this hurt coming from? Has this hurt been there, for the past 10 years and it's just now coming to the surface? Have I always felt unheard? Have I always felt like this person didn't love me or didn't listen to me? Have I always felt? And so I would say, get to the source of the infection, deal with the infection, and then work on healing.
That's great. That is so good. That is so good. Now, Ashleydawn, I know one of the things that you do is you have Inner Beauty Ministries, and you have a YouTube channel. I tell you, I listen to you all the time. You, like I said, you are just wise beyond your years. How did Inner Beauty Ministries start?
So when I was a little girl, I would go to church and I would learn all these Bible studies, and I would come home and I'd stand on the coffee table and I'd tell them to my parents. And, I just had this passion to show others God's love and to help others through life. I grew up and we had a pretty hard upbringing. There was, lots of things happening in my life. And so God has built me to be an encourager and kind of a cheerleader of people. And so when I see a person struggling, my first thing is like, I'm going to get my pom-poms, which is the word of God, and I'm going to cheer you to victory. And so that started as me being a little girl. And then, I grew up and I went through, I was a hairstylist, and I was in the beauty industry, and I was in the entertainment industry with country music and radio. And then I did pageants. And so I'm seeing all these people that are working so hard on being so beautiful on the outside. Meanwhile, I'm knowing you could be the prettiest shell in the world, but if you're ugly inside, if you don't love others like Jesus, it's not for nothing. Like, who cares how good you look on the outside? If you're mean, nobody's going to want to be around you. And so I realized that people, you have personal trainers that'll help you work out. You have fashion stylists that'll help you get ready for the red carpet. But you really don't have anybody that's showing you how to be beautiful on the inside, that's showing you how to forgive and walk in humility and be loving and be kind and be understanding. And I'm like, I can be that person. And so when I graduated beauty school in 2006, I started kind of talking at the salon to my clients, and telling them, like, I'm doing your hair right now and I'm doing your makeup, but have you looked at within? Have you looked at who you are inside? Are you happy with who you are inside? And it started from that. And then I was like, oh, and that's when Twitter was real big. And so I would tweet, some encouraging things every day. And then I started speaking at like little like get-togethers, like little socials with like tea and stuff, and they'd be like, oh, you want to come speak, you want to come encourage? And I'm like, I was made to encourage, yes. And I started a text message thing with all the people at the radio station, and so I would text everybody encouraging messages every day, just to help them be beautiful within, because when you're beautiful within, it radiates outwards. It don't matter if you're wearing makeup, if you did your hair. If you're a good person, people want to be around you, they'll gravitate towards you. And so that started Twitter, and then it turned into Facebook, and then it turned into Instagram. And then in 2011, it started YouTube. And then now it's turned into, I speak all over the country. Churches hire me to come and do women's conferences and motivational speeches. I mentor middle and high school girls and just really want to teach them, especially when they're trying to figure out who they are, to say, like, who are you on the inside? Because that matters a whole lot more. Your outside is going to change a million times, in your lifetime, but who you are within will remain. And then my YouTube ministry, I do this little thing. It's called Getting Real with Ashleydawn. And that started out of just feeling like people couldn't be real. Like you go to Sunday school and everyone seems put together, and you're looking at yourself like, whoa, what is wrong with me? Why is everyone else perfect and I'm not? And I just wanted people to have a place where they could kind of unbutton their pants and kind of, breathe a little and hear somebody that loves God, but that's also real and falls down and gets hurt and has life problems too. And so it's kind of what I'm doing now.
So just so you know, when you go and you watch Ashleydawn on YouTube, you're going to see her driving in her car. And we've had some conversations about this because, as a mom and a grandma, I get a little worried, people talking and driving on the phone. But, I understand her own mom gets a little excited about it as well. How about that?
Yeah, so that has been a hot topic where I've had to have some humble pie in and realize my mom knows more than me. She cares about me, and the things that she says, I can get frustrated, and it's easy to think, well, she's trying to, stifle my dreams, and she's trying to make me stop doing something I'm passionate about, but really she just loves me. And so we've kind of came to an agreement that I'm allowed to do it. I am 34 and I still ask my mom for permission on certain things. But I have to keep my hands on the wheel because I talk with my hands a lot, and that's dangerous. And if ever it's raining or I'm in traffic or it's real bad driving conditions, I'll turn it off. But for the most part, it just sits on the little thing. I click the button and then it kind of goes, and I try not to pay attention to it. So I do try to be as cautious as I can be. But I do appreciate your love and concern for me, Michelle.
Absolutely. Well, I watch you and your expressions and your emotions. I mean, you are really invested in what you're doing for people. And I just have such respect for that. I'm just so proud of you and everything that you're doing. Now, I've written several books for teenagers, and you said that you mentor teenagers. I would love to know your take on what our teenagers are thinking and feeling right now in this day and age of everything that's going on.
The teens that I have mentored are scared. They're scared about the future. They're unsure of, what's going on. The COVID thing really did a number on them because it took all of their community and their fellowship and their friends away. It took their school away. And a lot of them are really struggling, honestly, with mental health. And I think a lot of us are, you have, for a year, we've been hiding behind these masks and all we can see are eyes. And there's so many people that are struggling and haven't had a hug and haven't had any kind of physical touch. There's so many children that the only meal they get is at school. The only hug they get is from their teacher. They come from broken homes or homes where they don't even realize, their parents don't even realize if they're there or not. And so it's easy to say, oh, well, we just were out of work. But our kids, our teens, especially the ones that have graduated in the past 2 years, dreams that they've had that haven't turned out the way that they thought they would. You plan for 12 years to graduate and have all these fun events, and then you don't get prom and you don't get grad bash and you don't get all these things. And yes, they're little in the grand scheme of things, but to a little heart, they matter.
Oh, absolutely. Those are big things. Those are life-changing, life-remembering things. And I know a lot of the high schoolers, last year missed out on so much. And I'm really hoping this year that they're not missing out on as much. I do work in the schools right now, and I tell you, it's really, a lot of the kids don't even smile because they don't know they're supposed to be smiling. I've worked in the nursery at church, and I've seen babies to where, they look at you and they're not happy and playful, and because they're only seeing your eyes. And I know we can smile with our eyes, but right. Children don't understand that, and I think a lot of adults are falling into that problem as well. And yes, I think pride comes along too when we talk about you can't do this and you can't do that, and that makes our kids kind of puff up and go, wait a minute, yes I can. And then they start all these TikTok challenges and
Yeah.
all these challenges that I look at and go, oh, keep
Some
the nurses
are really
in
dangerous.
business. Pardon?
Some are very dangerous.
Some are very dangerous.
And they have
Absolutely.
no concept of that. They're like, well, my friends are doing it. And it's like, yeah, but you could get seriously hurt or die.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this isn't just a fun little challenge. This is something
right.
that could potentially hurt you or kill you. And the thing is, and that's pride too. A lot of them are scared to go to an adult. They're scared to go to a parent. They're scared to go to a teacher. And so they kind of just deal with it themselves. And that's pride too. And like we said, pride comes before the fall. Anytime you think that your way is the best way or that your way is the only way, you're setting yourself up for failure. And so many of our kids are doing things and they're too scared, to talk to their parents. And so they just do something and then they fall on their face and then they feel shame, which comes after pride. And then they feel like they can't talk to anybody. And then they just start building walls and shutting down. And it's really hard to get back in when there's so many walls protecting them from everyone around them.
Right. Absolutely. And, a lot of things that I've seen with the little ones too, let's face it, we're born and we start walking and we fall and we get back up and we fall and we get back up. And, then all of a sudden you have the toddler saying, me do it, me do it. And eventually that does lead to some kind of pride within them that, well, they're proud of themselves that they've done something great and wonderful and, achieved a milestone. But then as it goes on, sometimes that goes into selfishness too, and not playing well with others because they want to do it all themselves. Now that falls into the elementary students that I'm seeing as well. They all think that, they've got this. And, we had an incident today that just kind of blew my mind, because there were some kids. Now the keystrokes are monitored on their keyboards. And there was a student that did something that, wasn't supposed to type on his computer. And then he was just kind of blown away of, somebody stole my password. I didn't do it. And I thought, wait a minute, if you're going to do something, at least own up to it, but I think our pride stands in the way and doesn't even let us own up to stuff.
Well, yeah, look at in the garden, with Adam and Eve. Well, it was the woman you gave me. It wasn't my fault. And it's like, no, it was your fault. You did it. And that is, going to the wound and getting healing is saying, yeah, that was me. Yeah, I did that. When you were talking about the toddler saying, me do it my way, and then kind of going off and doing what they want, I honestly just thought of adults getting their heart broken in relationships and being like, you know what? I'm not going to give a guy another chance. I'm not going to give a girl another chance, for guys that are watching. And then just being alone and being single and, having this chip on your shoulder, like, I can do this, I could do this by myself. I don't need anybody. I don't want anybody, and then you just have all these walls around you. And it's like your heart is just stone cold. And I get, you're hurt, you maybe have some trust issues, but again, you got to get to the root of that. Where is that hurt coming from?
Absolutely. And that is true, because we do get set in our ways. And if you sat home all last year because you didn't have a job, or you were, too afraid to go out or anything else, I mean, you're alone and you think, well, I can do it. I know I live alone and I think, oh, I can do this. I can fix this or that. And then I get on a ladder and I think, maybe this wasn't such a good idea after all, but I am fortunate that I have family close by that can come and help me, but not everybody has that. And, it's hard to ask for help sometimes.
That honestly is one of my biggest struggles, is pride, because I know I'm a very capable young woman because my parents raised me to be. There was one of my friends saw me in traffic a couple weeks ago and pulled over and was like, hey, your brake light's out. You can swing by the house and I'll fix it for you. And I'm like, oh, yeah, thanks. And then, he was talking to his mom and his mom's like, oh, well, are you going to fix it for her? And he's like, no, she's going to do it on her own. She does everything on her own. And honestly, it took her saying that to me, and I was like, oh, you're right. Yeah, I definitely do everything on my own. And I really struggle when people offer for help, receiving that help. That's something else we got to talk about.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, we're going to take a short break and we'll be right back.
It's time for a short break, and when we come back, we'll continue our conversation. At Open Pages Publishing, we offer coaching, marketing packages, and other professional writing services such as a resume, articles, copywriting services, press releases, social media, and blog posting. For more information, email us at info@openpagespublishing.com. And now back to our...
Okay, all right, we're back. So where did we leave off, Ashleydawn?
When people offer us help and our pride stands in the way of us receiving it.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm bad at that.
So how can we get through that?
Take the help. It sounds so easy.
Life can be so easy, and yet we complicate it everywhere we go, everything we do. And that's where we go back to the people are living in the see, feel, and hear. You see somebody doing something and it may not even be what you think it is. Okay. Or someone says something to you and you feel that maybe they crossed the line, but they were just being honest and you asked them to be honest with you. And maybe what they said wasn't even intended how you heard it, So we got to try and get out of that see, feel, and hear and try and live more by faith. How can we do that, Ashleydawn?
Well, there is this amazing book that was written a bunch of years ago. It's right here. It's called the Bible. And if we would open it and get into it and would apply it to our life, when we start doubting, when we start fearing, when we start having shame, and we're like, you know what, I'm feeling shame, but I'm not going to receive shame because my forgiveness has already been taken care of. My debt has already been paid, but now I have to fix my eyes on the truth instead of fixing my eyes on my feelings, right? If I stub my toe, it hurts. Like, I can feel that it hurts, and I could sit at home all day, or I can boss up and I could put my shoes on and go to work. Like, yes, it hurts, but I still have a job I need to do. Yes, it hurts, but I'm going to choose to see with my spirit instead of my eyes. So often we get into how we feel. Well, I feel like this. Well, I feel like this. Your feelings will jack you.
Absolutely. Yes, they will. Yes, they will. And I tell you, I love how you're talking with your hands, just like I tried to talk with my hands earlier and knocked my microphone up. So it's a good thing I don't have a whole lot of pride right now. It's all good. It's all good. But yes, your feelings can really mess you up. Living in those feelings. Yeah, I'm not saying you can't have emotions. I mean, we all have emotions. And actually, it's really good for you to cry. It's good for your health to cry, get it out, because you hold stuff in and then you start creating a disease process that you really don't want. Okay. Living in emotions, it's okay. But when you start living in how you feel and what you see and what you hear, especially from other people, that's where we go wrong.
Yeah, when you download everything that's coming at you. Like, I talk to probably, no exaggeration, probably 50 people a day. And those 50 people a day have all kinds of their own opinions about life, about all these different things. Now, if I download all of their feelings, all of their emotions, which I'm very empathetic, and so it's easy for me to kind of be a sponge if I don't have healthy boundaries, and kind of take on everyone's emotions and everyone's feelings as my own, when they're not even my own feelings. So I have to ask myself, like, am I feeling this or are they? Because their feelings are not my feelings. And so I don't need to download everything that comes in. I can kind of go through it and cherry pick it and be like, that's not my feeling. That's not my feeling. And with my Bible, be like, okay, what is the word of God say? What does truth say? Not opinion, not feeling. What does truth say? Because I need to fix my eyes on the truth, or I am going to be blown about like a sailboat in a storm.
Absolutely. Now, we've been talking as if everybody knows about the Bible, and maybe a lot of people don't. So where would be a good start for people, that really aren't in their Christian walk very far, or even have started their Christian walk? Where do you think they should start?
So I would recommend 2 books. I would recommend the book of Proverbs. And what I would do is, whatever date it is, I would go to the proverb for that date. Like, what day is it? I don't even know.
The 20th.
It's the 20th. So go to Proverbs 20 and read that for the day, because Proverbs is the book of wisdom. And even if you don't know anything about the Bible, it'll give you wisdom and it'll help you in your goings on throughout the day. You don't have to know a whole bunch about the Bible or about Jesus, or, do you want wisdom? Well, that's a book about wisdom. And then I would also recommend, if you do want to know about Jesus, if you do want to know about love, Matthew. It's a great place to start, and you will understand the love that God has for you. He gives his love to us, whether we want it or not, and whether we want to take it or not. It's just a gift, and he gives it to us, and we can unwrap it or we can leave it on the shelf, and that's our choice. So if you just want to have some wisdom, go to Proverbs. If you want to learn about God's love, go to Matthew.
Absolutely. And, Philippians is a really good place too, because there's a lot of wisdom in there as well. When we all talk about, learning to walk as a Christian, everybody thinks it's this long walk and it's too hard. It's too tedious. The words are too big. Some of them are hard to pronounce. The names are really interesting, to say the least, so just start.
I mean,
Yeah.
just like anything else, if you want to learn to speak Spanish, you got to buy a book and open the book. You know, if you want to learn about God, you buy the Bible and you open the Bible. What are some other ways, Ashleydawn?
Honestly, just like we're talking. So it's so funny because when I talk to my little girls or I talk to my preschoolers, it's so much easier to talk to younger people because they're so much more open to it. You talk to an adult and they're so set in their ways that it could be the simplest little thing in the world and they make such a big old mountain out of it. All you got to do is talk to God and say, God, I'm struggling. I don't know what I believe. I don't know if I believe in you. I don't know if I don't. Like, he knows your heart. He knows your thoughts, and he's not going to be, shocked by your thoughts. He just wants you to have community and fellowship with him. And so even if you don't own a Bible, I mean, there's a million Bible apps. There's the Blue Letter Bible. There's the YouVersion Bible that will even read to you. If you don't like reading, it'll read the Bible to you, so get an app. You don't even have to buy a Bible. But honestly, just talk to God. Back in the day in the Bible, it says, you had to go to a priest and the priest had to go and make a sacrifice. And it was this big whole thing. And there was a veil and you couldn't go between the veil. The veil has been torn. We don't need an interpreter. God speaks our language. And so if we would just open our heart and talk to him, we could talk like a redneck if we want. We could, hey, God, how you doing? I love you. That's how my pop-pop talks, but like, we don't have to dress it up and put a tuxedo on it. God just wants to talk to us. And, you can use your slang talk. You can talk how you talk. God's not looking for perfection. He literally just wants your friendship and your heart.
Right. And like you said, he already knows what we do. He knows what we think. He knows what's going to happen before we even know what's going to happen, and that's so amazing to have someone that cares and loves you that much, that he wants to know everything about you, So Ashleydawn, with your inner beauty ministry, the topics that you choose, how do you come across those topics?
Honestly, it depends. Sometimes I'll be driving and God will just like download it in my heart. Sometimes it'll be like supernatural and I'll be like, whoa, God. A lot of times it's messages that he wants me to learn, which is real funny because I'll always listen to them before I post them to make sure I didn't say anything that's, not in the Bible or, say anything wrong or talk weird, because sometimes I do, and so I'll listen to it back and I'm like, oh my gosh, God, that message was for me. Like I needed to hear that. And so sometimes it's that, sometimes it's supernatural. Sometimes it's a friend that says, hey, can you do a video on this? But honestly, a lot of times it's me falling on my face and crashing and burning and taking the wisdom that I learned when I fall on my face and I have that humble pie and trying to share it with other people. So then they don't fall on their face. That's most of my messages.
Yeah. And I enjoy them. They are, I mean, when you say getting real with Ashleydawn, they're real.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no sugarcoating, and it's just awesome because it's so lifting and it's so encouraging. And even when you're sad and you cry, you make me cry too, but it's okay. It's all okay because it's wisdom. It's true wisdom,
Well, it's real.
It is real. It is definitely real.
Some days it might just be, you need to see what problems I'm going through that makes your life look a whole lot better.
Well, not only that, sometimes people think that, gosh, I got problems, man, I'm just going through it and my life is tough and nothing's going my way. And, when you hear a story from someone else that just probably went through the same thing or something similar, it's like, oh, wait a minute. So how did she handle it? And that's not to say that the way you handle it will work for everybody else, but at least there's some little golden nuggets in there that someone can take away and say, wow, this helped. It's just to know that we're not perfect and no one else is either. And we're not alone. Absolutely. Now, I do know that you are doing something else right now, too. I want to just highlight that really quick because I think it's really cool. Tell us about that.
So I'm writing a book. that Michelle has been on me to write for like 3-4 years now. And to the point where she's like, hey, I'm a publisher. So not only do I know the calling of God on your life, and I know that you have wisdom that other people need, I'm going to help you publish it.
Hey, we all have a book inside of us. Now, whether or not you want to get it out or not, but we do have a story to tell. You may think, well, my story is, who would want to know about it? Believe it or not, somebody's going through the same thing that you are. Somebody is walking next to you. I won't say in your shoes, because we all have our own stuff to deal with, but someone's walking next to you and they need to hear what you have to say. So, whether you write it now, whether you write it a year from now, just start. Everybody's like, well, where do I start? Take a piece of paper, write down some topics, write down what you've been through. Just write your story and then just go from there. Ask around other people. What's your story? I love to hear people's stories. I just, it's so enlightening to hear what people have gone through, both good and bad. So what else, Ashleydawn? I know you have something else you're working on too.
I do. Oh, the
food.
Conference. Oh, my blog. Oh, I was like, did God tell you something? My blog. So I do What's Up Fort Myers, and it's going to be all over the world eventually. And so I go to restaurants and I review food because I love to eat and I love to do stuff and go on adventures. And the thing is, tomorrow's not promised. So what are you doing with today? And, that goes with the pride too. Pride really withholds us from living our best life. Now, what does that best life mean? It means living your life full. God came so that we would have life into the full, abundant life. Are you living your life fully? What are some things you like to do? I like food. I like sunflowers. And so I like going to sunflower fields and I like trying new foods. And so that's one of my vlogs that I'm doing. And that's exciting for me. The book that I'm writing right now that Michelle's going to publish, hopefully within the year, is, all about sunflowers. And it's going to tie in my life and my wisdom that I've learned the hard way in sunflowers and how God created a sunflower. And so I'm really, really excited about that. Are you writing any books right now, Michelle?
Actually, I'm right. I've written 16 books and number 17 is in the works. I'm working on it. It's going to be a growing in a Christian walk for adults. I wrote one for teenagers. And so now I'm writing one for adults that really want to start out and learn all about God. It kind of goes through all the terms and has some questions, has some really cool tidbits from the Bible that you may not realize or as you're reading, you might skip over. So it's going to be really good. I can't wait to get it out.
When can we expect that? Or when can we?
Yeah, that's a good question. In the next few months. Yeah, in the next few months. We're starting this radio show and TV show and one step at a time. We did the podcasting and we're just kind of growing leaps and bounds and I'm just really I'm so excited to see what's coming next. I've got a lot of really good guests that are lined up over the next several weeks and it's going to be a great show. I hope everybody stays tuned and keeps coming back every Monday night at 8 p.m. So what's next for Miss Ashleydawn?
I have a couple conferences that I'm going to speak at. Hopefully more come. And this book is like on my forefront. I've got about 7 books that I want to write, but I really feel impressed to do the one about sunflowers.
And just real quick, what is it with the sunflowers? What is the meaning of the sunflower for you?
So I grew up and I love all things yellow. If you can see, my walls are yellow. My flowers are yellow. Yellow is my favorite color. It's just happy. It's like sunshine. It's happy. And you can't go, have a bad day and go into a bright yellow room and like be sad. And so I love yellow. And sunflowers, I always, roses were really popular, but sunflowers, they grew in unlikely places. They grew on ditches, and they grew on the side of the road, and they grew. My mom and pop had a farm, and so they would just grow randomly, like in the corn and in the watermelons, and they would just grow randomly. And I loved that sunflowers grew wherever they wanted to, and I kind of wanted to be like that too. And then my favorite thing about the sunflower is when they're growing and they're in the younger stages. When they get older, they're a little bit more stationary, but when they're growing, their head is always facing the sun. And I always loved that because I always want to face the sun, which is God, Jesus. And so when I'm struggling, I want to look to Jesus. And when I'm feeling, I want to look to Jesus and see what Jesus says about me and not what I'm feeling or what I'm thinking, because sometimes my thoughts lie. Sometimes my feelings lie. The Bible says to guard your heart, for your life flows from it. Sometimes my heart lies. It gets jacked up, and I think things and I feel things that are not true. And so the sunflower always reminds me that regardless of what I'm going through, to always look for the sun, to always look for the good, to always look for the positive. And so sunflowers do that. And so I try to do the same.
They really are beautiful. And I've seen all your pictures with your sunflowers, and I think they're great. So Ashleydawn, how can people get a hold of you? How can they get in touch with you?
Well, I have my YouTube channel. I also have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm not really on that much. My email is innerbeauty101@hotmail.com. For bookings, if you have an event or a conference that you want me to speak at, or women's ministry, whatever. And then Instagram @InnerBeautyMinistry, and Snapchat, TikTok, all the things that kids have, I have because I want to watch them.
Now they're all Inner Beauty, correct?
Mm-hmm. Inner Beauty 101 or Inner Beauty Ministry.
Okay.
They're both.
Well, Ashleydawn, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you. I'm excited for this show. I can't wait to watch every Monday night.
Oh, we're going to have you back another time. Don't you go too far. So this is Michelle Spikanis, and I just want to let you know, if you want to be a guest on the show, or if you'd like to be a sponsor of our show, I want you to email me at info@openpagespublishing.com. This is Michelle Spikanis reminding you, don't walk by what you see, feel, and hear, okay? Pride destroys our focus and our relationships. We want to make sure that we resist those temptations to be prideful. Love one another, be compassionate, be kind, and live the life you were meant to live.